Welcome to Tewatohnhi'saktha's podcast. My name is Abigail Jacobs, and I'll be your host for today's episode, where we will cover the importance of the job application process from the view of a human resources specialist. We're joined by Marie Lahache, Director of Human Resources at Tewatohnhi'saktha. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abby.
Can you start by telling us about you and your background in human resources?
I currently am the Director of HR at Tewatohnhi'saktha. I've been here since January 2024. Prior to working here, I've worked for close to 30 years within Ganawage at different EDC organizations. I worked at the hospital for 14 years, and half of those years were in HR. I worked at Step by Step for close to 10 years, and that was in HR. I worked at the Education Center for a bit. And I worked as a HR consultant as well.
And what I think is really interesting as well is you've worked in organizations, but you've also been a small business owner.
Yes. I'm also a massage therapist. I own my own business.
So I think that brings a really interesting side to your human resources, human relations side, because not only are you a small business owner, but you also deal in holistic wellness. So you kind of see that aspect when you're working with people, correct?
Yes. You don't work in human resources unless you like to work with people and care about people and look at a person as a whole person, not just a body, because every aspect of a person is important to ensure that they're healthy. Yeah, it kind of all goes together. Human. Yeah.
So now specifically here at Tewatohnhi'saktha, what can you tell us about your role?
Okay, so as the director of HR, I oversee the department more at looking at the different areas of HR, like the recruitment and hiring, compensation benefits, training and development, performance management, employee relations, pretty much all aspects of HR. I have another employee who works with me. She's my HR administrator. She carries out the day-to-day duties, whereas I'm looking at it more from a strategic point of view, looking at direction, goals, objectives of the department. Where are our strengths? What are some challenges? How do we overcome those challenges? Which is great because right now we're in the process of a strategic plan. I came in just at the right time, so I get to, put the direction that I want HR to go in for Tewatohnhi'saktha.
Nice. So now with all of your experiences with your different places that you've worked and experiences that you've had, what do you see businesses and employers are looking for in an employee?
You're obviously looking for the best fit. Fit can mean they meet the qualifications of the job. They have the experience, they have the skills, knowledge. They just have the drive, the passion, the motivation. They have the same values as what the job is looking for. If you're looking at going into customer service, well, obviously you're going to look for somebody who's good with working with people, connecting with people. So yeah, you're looking for that, the good fit.
And of course, for our listeners, they are probably lots of job seekers as well. So for today's episode, we're kind of targeting those who are in the job market, and this can be an exciting and a stressful time. It's exciting to apply and, well, am I going to get it? But it's also a little stressful. So we're going to go through step by step through the process with Marie and get your take on everything to kind of give our job seekers and our listeners a better idea of what to expect and how to approach the whole process. First step in a job application, you see the posting. When somebody's looking at a job description, what should they be aware of?
They need to look at, is this a job that I can actually do? What are the main responsibilities of the job? What are the working conditions of the job? You don't want to come in and find out that there's a lot of evening work, weekend work, and you didn't check that. You didn't see it. You want to make sure that, do I possess the qualifications and experience to do this job? So you really have to read through it. Each responsibility, what it entails, who you'll be working with, and basically just to have a really good idea, like, is this something I can see myself being able to do and wanting to do?
And I think an interesting thing, sometimes, we have job seekers who are just entering the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have people who are looking for a career change. And maybe for those types of things, are there certain areas that you would want people to really highlight while looking at a job description, or certain things that can maybe be negotiable?
obviously somebody, new to the job market or who just came straight out of school doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience that a job is requiring, but they usually possess a lot of other skills. They could have like good communication skills, good time management skills, punctuality, problem solving, things like that. You're trying to highlight and really focus on the skills that are required for that job that you already possess. Some of these skills you don't necessarily learn in school. You already have them, or you can develop them, or you have developed them even in just everyday life as well.
Next, we would be moving on. You found your job description. You feel confident about this kind of position. Now you need to start making your cover letter and your resume. Can you talk about the importance as a human resources specialist that you see for resumes and cover letters?
So your cover letter is really the introduction. You're introducing yourself to this employer, and it shouldn't duplicate what a resume looks like, because then there's no point in giving the exact same two documents. You have your resume, which shows all of your work experience, all of your education, all of your training, all of that in chronological order. But then you don't want to just reiterate the same thing in your cover letter. You really want to connect with the person. You want to make it very personalized. You shouldn't really start it with to whom it may concern. You try to make it more personal, to so and so director of HR, or if you don't know the person's name, then you say to the hiring manager who you are, why you're interested, why you're writing the letter in the first place is I'm writing to apply for such and such a job.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I seen the job. This is what I know about the organization. And this is why I feel that I'm a good fit to work at this organization. These are the type of experiences and you really go into some like really concrete examples of, because when we're looking at this letter
Mm-hmm.
or when we're looking at your resume, we want to see, we don't just want, blah, blah, blah. I can do this. I can do that. Like, tell us what you can do. Like in actual, I've done this. I've created a brochure. You're going into marketing or something. I've
Yeah.
created the brochure for such and such. We want to see that, and even include some of these documents if you want, some of your
Oh.
achievements, your certificates, things like that, to show that I possess these other things. I've taken the extra step.
What do you feel a resume should contain? You mentioned, you're writing down your education and your work experience. What are sometimes I know resumes can say like, what are your skills? What are your talents? What are your hobbies? Sometimes people really throw in the kitchen sink. Do you think that those are necessary? Are those helpful additives to a resume? What should be on there?
Really, what it should contain, because there's a difference of a resume and a CV. So a CV is more like your life. So it includes all that extra stuff about what you did, which may or may not be relevant to the job that you're doing.
Okay.
Like myself, my CV would contain that I'm a massage therapist. But I don't know if I would put that on my resume, because do they really need to know that I'm a massage therapist? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on what kind of job I'm applying for.
That's really interesting. I never knew that
hmm
there was a difference
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And CVs are usually longer. Resumes more to the point, more
So
education,
where
work
is that
experience.
specifically with a job description? Will they stipulate you need a resume or a CV,
They're
or
kind
is
of
it
used interchangeably,
Okay.
and they can be, but I just know that there is a difference. So to me, it doesn't matter what you call it. If you say submit a resume, submit a CV, but we usually put resume here. But if they happen to mention the other things, as long as it's relevant, like if you're applying to work as an admin person and you worked as a babysitter, you were a caregiver, it wouldn't really be relevant to talk about that so much. You could
Mhm.
you could mention it, but to like really detail, like this is what I did when I was, a caregiver, a
Yeah.
child care provider type of thing. So it's like knowing when to elaborate. When should I elaborate, and when is it just enough to just mention, yeah, I have work experience, but
Yeah.
I'll focus more on the things that you're looking for.
Good. And how would someone without a lot of work experience incorporate other achievements, like, say, school or life experiences like this? Like you said, a childcare provider or
Mhm.
different things like that. For people who have lots of work experience, they might need to cut down on their resume. For people who maybe don't have a lot of work experience, how do they incorporate things?
Well, that's when they would focus more on those soft skills, more on the skills, work ethic, work skills. What did you gain from work in that place? Yes, it might be very different field than what you're applying for. Different skills that you obtain in different types of employment. Do you arrive on time? Do you find that prioritizing your day is important? Do you find arriving to work is important? Do you find getting along with your colleagues is important? Things like that, that they are just as important as well because, you can have it could look great on paper, but then once you get here and you're starting to actually do your work and interact with others, it's a lot different.
That's very interesting to hear from an HR specialist, from the director of HR, is to hear, when are you looking at skills, and then what do they call 'em? Personality hires or things like that. Do you find that that all kind of goes into?
So here at Tewatohnhi'saktha, we do an assessment that we send ahead of time to all applicants, and we ask them to fill it out. It's online, and it varies. Sometimes it could take a little bit longer depending on what the job is. So it kind of pulls out like what's required of the job, and it tells us the match, the job match, the skill match, and things like that, or maybe
Cool.
areas that will help. Like, doesn't mean, oh, they're a yes or a no, they're a match or not a match,
Hmm.
but it just might be able to tell us as well that maybe this person is a really good match in these areas, but this part is a little bit, and so that's a training and development once they come in. This might be something that you want to look at.
Mhm.
So yeah, there is an aspect of our screening process that takes that into consideration.
That's wonderful. A question that I had specifically about resumes that I wanted I guess it would be more of your personal opinion. There is a new style of resume where it's like a one sheet profile page for somebody who's creating their resume for this job application. You could have a 3-page resume, or now the new style is to say you're going to have a one sheet and you're just going to list tick, 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 and a nice little picture on top, splash in some colors. It's a very new style that I've seen
I've
coming
seen
up.
it, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, as I mentioned, I've been in the workforce for quite a while. I'll say 25 plus years.
Yeah.
So this is new. Before it was kind of like a few pages long, and I've seen the new ones, and they're nice. They're as long as they're well done and they're not just about the way it looks,
Hmm.
but it's more important is what it contains.
Yeah.
Making sure that it's one thing making it look pretty, but what are you putting on there, and is it enough? Yeah, so they can be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. But as long
It's
as you have.
as long as it contains what needs to be on there and it's not just, lack of better term, fluff.
Hmm. What are some things you would say not to include?
Things that are irrelevant. Just stick to the job, stick to it's professional. A resume, it's supposed to be a professional document.
Hmm.
Keep that in mind when you're creating this document. It's looking at you as a professional. This is what I'm looking at when I see this. I don't want to see little butterflies all over the and pictures like that. If there's a picture of you, great. I get to see ahead of time. Oh, okay, this is I have a face with a name.
Yeah.
Add in all this extra graphic, this and that. It's just extra. You're not going to get any points that way. Not
Yeah.
not from me anyway.
And of course, it can seem overwhelming. It might be a little stressful, as we said, as you said. It's a professional document that really showcases yourself. So if people need help for resumes, where should they go?
The first place people usually do is they go online. they research. Could go on Google, type in cover letter samples, could even type in letter samples for administrative assistant, like
Hmm.
specific for jobs. So it'll kind of help you. Do not use that generic letter,
Oh.
but you really need to personalize it. Your cover letter should not look generic, should not, because sometimes we can tell if it's just been like cut and pasted or some stuff deleted, one word insert it.
Yeah.
You really want to, like, you're telling a story to us. You're telling us who you are, why you want this job, why you applied for this job. So look online, get ideas, what it's supposed to look like, how it's usually should be 1 page max for a cover letter. Same thing with resumes. There's different styles out there. There's this new one, like you said, the 1 pager. If you want to go with that one, yeah, go ahead. It should have your name, your contact information, whether it's email, phone number, what you're looking for. Some people put their objective is to obtain employment within a blah blah blah. References, if you have professional references, some people will say references upon request. For me, I prefer if they put the references on right away. Just adds a little that they've added in there right away, that they always have these references ready. And when you put a reference, just a tip, make sure your references are aware that you put them as a reference, because that's like one thing is if we call a reference and say, "Hi, I'm so and so, call in with regards to this person who applied for a job here," and they put you as a reference and they're like, "Who?
Oh,
What?"
oh no.
So that's never a good
No.
they weren't expecting the call and you may or may not have put them on the spot. Then we have to say, "Are you comfortable with
Mm.
giving a reference?" So save yourself that by making sure your references know that you put them down, that you're applying for this job. So this way when they get the call, they're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I put them down," and it's all good.
Good. Yeah, that's a good tip.
Mhm.
And when you're doing your cover letter, what can be things that you absolutely should contain or can be left out?
Well, it should be like a one pager. So it's your intention, your highlight your most important information, reference your last job, your skills, things like that. Make sure you do not have typos.
Hmm.
Grammar, use proper grammar,
Yep.
things like that. Make sure you're actually, and that's where you'll get caught is if you're using a template. Sometimes they forgot that one word and it's a completely different job written
Oh
in there,
no.
or to the attention of somebody completely different. We catch on to those things. And back to your question about where else. So besides looking online, if you really want to get a personalized and something that's really tailored to you and really going to, make you look good,
Yeah.
I would suggest that they contact Tewatohnhi'saktha.
Yeah.
There's workforce development. They have counselors that can help them with drafting up their cover letters, their resumes. They can even help them with preparing for interviews. I've used them actually in the past, way back.
And yeah, there's a whole team here at Tewatohnhi'saktha that if it feels overwhelming, or maybe you're not confident in your grammar, and that shouldn't have to matter because there is a team here at Tewatohnhi'saktha that can help you to format, they can help you to showcase, and they can help you to get it all put together. So you just have to contact Tewatohnhi'saktha. You go on to our website, www.tewa.ca, and you'll find the client registration form. You can fill that out with your contact information, and you'll be assigned to a counselor to help you with your job application process. So now you've gotten your resume and your cover letter, you've submitted, and you were granted an interview. Our job seekers got an interview. What can they do to prepare?
An important thing is, first of all, you've read the job description, we are assuming. You
Yes.
know what the job is that you're applying for.
Yes.
We understand that you know who you'll be working for, what department you'll be working in, where you'll be working. You should kind of already know all of that. And almost always a question at the beginning, what do you know about our place?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt to look at the website. Look at what is their mission? What is their vision, their values? What is it they do there? What services do they offer to the community? Like there could be different, like here, there's workforce development, there's business services, OSD, there's marketing and tourism. Like know that this is all Tewatohnhi'saktha.
Yes.
Don't be like, I don't know,
Hmm.
because then that's kind of showing, are you really interested in just getting a job, or are you interested in getting a job at Tewatohnhi'saktha?
Or at the
At the
organization, the
place you're
place.
you're applying for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really just take that time to really look up as much information as you know about the place that you're looking at going work, and make sure that it's actually a place you want to work.
So, as you mentioned, one of the first questions that's usually asked is, what do you know about the employer? What are some other things job seekers can expect when going into an interview?
Well, they should be on time.
Mhm.
Never be late if you can help it. Arrive even a little bit early if you can. Plus, it gives you time to kind of sit, relax, because the nerves are usually there.
Yes.
So you get to sit, have some water, take your time. This way, by the time they call you in, you're not just like rushing in and sitting down. And for interview panels, there's usually like 3 people on an interview panel. So there's almost
Hmm.
always a HR person. There's usually the supervisor, and there could be another person that's familiar with the job. Depends on what the position is, but that's almost always the 3 people that you should be expecting to be sitting there. Yeah, arrive on time. When you come in, they'll greet you. They'll explain the process to you, usually, how many questions there are, how long it should take. Sometimes you'll know that even ahead of time when you were scheduled for the interview. They'll let you know like it should take, because some people, if they already have a job or if they have small
Right.
children, they might have to get childcare or take time off work. So they're usually told ahead of time, like it might take about an hour and you might have a test afterwards.
Mm.
So that might happen too. You might have to do a written test either at right afterwards at the organization, or to take home, and you'll be designated like a certain time frame that you can do it.
Good. And what are some important things job seekers should be doing in their interview?
They should be trying to speak as clearly as possible. They should ask for clarification when they're not sure of a question. Instead of just skipping the question, maybe they just need it to really understand what it is that the interviewers are asking. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. Take your time. You don't have to rush, because a lot of times people think they have to rush and they have to just say whatever. If you want to come back to a question, say that as well. If you can't think of everything, or your mind just goes blank, which happens
Yeah.
to everybody, just ask if you can come back to that question. That's okay too. If you have questions that you have about the job, usually there's always time at the end. So come with those questions. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing when you come with questions. It could actually show that you have interest, and you really thought about, if I got this job, or what would it mean, and I have a question about this, and how would this be handled. So having a question sometimes is a good thing too.
Nice. And what are some things that job seekers should avoid in an interview?
Well, being late.
Hmm.
Punctuality is a big thing when in any work setting. I guess not knowing much about the job,
Yeah.
just coming in, and it's just like, oh, yeah, I think I have an interview for this job, and
Oh.
you don't even really know the job, or they ask you, why do you want to work here, and your answer is, well, I need a job. I've heard that kind of
Yeah.
answer. So like you
Which
need,
can be honest,
yeah.
but you need a little more.
Yeah, you could be honest, but to a certain point, like we want to know that you do want to work
Hmm.
for our organization. Yeah.
Yeah, that's key to highlight. And so, if people wanted to prepare for an interview, they can also do that.
At Tewatohnhi'saktha as well, with the workforce team as well. They also help. They do mock interviews with the clients as well. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention: when you arrive at an interview, be dressed for an interview. It doesn't matter what type of job you're applying for. Again, you need to look professional. Doesn't mean you need to come in with a shirt and tie,
Hmm.
get your hair done or anything like that, but be presentable, look professional, nice blouse, nice pants, a skirt, pants, but just your appearance is also looked at.
Very good. And now, post interview. We've left, We've done our best. We've given our best conversation with our interview. Should the job seekers be sending a follow-up email?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they send a follow up just to thank the interviewers. Well, what they'll usually do is send it to the person that's written on the job posting. So it's usually the hiring manager, just to say thank you for taking the time to look at my resume, for calling me in to do an interview, and it's just something short and sweet. You don't have to do that, but some people do. But in the interview at the end, that's when you can ask the question if it wasn't already told to you. When should I expect a call
Mhm.
or an email or a letter? How will I be advised if I was chosen or not chosen? Whether sometimes the hiring committee will tell the applicant, and sometimes they won't. So it's
Mm.
up to you to, if you want to know more of that information, you could ask at the interview.
Say if our job seeker, it does happen, unfortunately, if you were not the successful candidate, is it advisable to contact the employer for feedback, in your opinion?
You can, if you genuinely felt that you did an awesome job and you were a great fit. You can ask for some feedback. You're not asking because you're like, mad. You shouldn't do it out of anger. You should
Hmm.
do it really out of constructive feedback. How could I do better? What could I have done better? And sometimes it's not even a matter of that. Sometimes it's just there was a better fit.
Hmm.
You're great, but there was a better fit.
Yep.
So even just hearing that you did great, and but there was a better fit. So it's not telling you like, oh no, you really, this part you really, crashed, and
Oh.
but yeah, that you can, if you want, if you're doing it for the reasons of looking to improve. How can I brush up on, is there certain things I need to brush up on?
Hmm.
What should I focus on next time? You can do that. Some people do, some people don't. It's always a matter, it's at your own discretion.
Nice.
Mhm.
So now we've gone through the whole journey from finding a job description all the way down to closing out of an interview. Do you have any last advice for those who are in the job market?
Be open to learning, to developing. As good as we may feel that we are, or as educated as we feel we are, or as much experience as we feel we have, we can always get more. Just always be open minded, always be willing to try new things, look at new things, be uncomfortable. Like, if even if you feel like, I'm not sure if I can do the just do the interview. Just try, apply for, all you can do is try. All you can do is try, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least you tried.
Thank you so much. For all our listeners, if you need any help with your job search, visit www.tewa.ca. That's dewa.ca. Fill in a client registration form to be matched with a Tewatohnhi'saktha workforce development counselor. If you need help finding the right position, creating your resume and cover letter, or practicing a few mock interviews to boost your confidence before the real thing, we're here to help. Thanks for your time today, Marie.
Yeah, we'll go, Abby.
I'm sure you helped ease a lot of minds with your insight.
Thank you, I hope so.
I'm Abigail Jacobs for episode 8 of Rio. From here at Tewatohnhi'saktha, we'd like to say Nyawa for listening, and we look forward to helping you on your career journey.